Time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. I saw reports over the weekend. Democrats going to lose the House to Republicans. The left's, too woke, too far, Democratic agenda, too extreme. You see the messaging out there, and my mind is in this place where you go, hold on a second. The Build Back Better plan is too extreme. Getting help for working families, building affordable housing, ensuring families get child care. This is extreme. Health care, good jobs, ensuring that, maybe, I know we're not talking about Granny getting, some chompers and some hearing aids and some glasses again. I know that's completely off the table, but that's extreme in this day and age. This is what passes for extreme today. I mean, seriously, when the corporate controlled mainstream media is fixated on how far the Democrats have gone to the left, how extreme, how woke they are. Because, well, they want equality and fairness and equal opportunity and decency. Heaven forbid. That life, liberty, pursuit of happiness thing. That's written somewhere. It's got to be. I've heard it before. That's too extreme. Way too extreme, folks. It's just too much to ask for. Too much to ask that we help working families get ahead. Too much to ask for that we make things work. Too much to ask for. Too much to ask for to make workers' lives better. I get it. Too much. Too far. Too extreme. And yet, the Republicans who are getting almost no attention whatsoever. And this is the part that's really frustrating, because every day I wake up and all I keep seeing is hammered. Joe Biden's, getting accused of this, and, the Democrats are getting hammered with this because, woke. And yet you look at the Republican agenda, of which they actually kind of have one a little bit. Rick Scott came out with his. And the agenda calls for taxing almost half of the country. Remember Mitt Romney and the 47% of people who don't pay taxes? Well, Rick Scott's going to fix that. He's going to make those people, they're going to have some skin in the game. That's right, skin in the game. So about 40% of the country are going to have to chip in about $1,000 a year extra that they don't have. Now understand, these are people who would love to pay federal taxes. They would love to pay federal taxes. The reason they don't is they don't make enough money. So if they got a raise and they could, I'm sure they would love to chip in. Absolutely. Because the reason we've got so many poor people is they don't make enough money. Because wages are too low. Because minimum wage is too low. Employers are, screwing them. Why? Because rich people can. Pretty simple. But here's the thing. We're not hearing much about it. Not hearing much at all. In fact, Rick Scott's plan, really extreme. In fact, his plan would eliminate all federal legislation over 5 years, which means every 5 years you'd have to go back and reenact everything. So think Social Security. Hey, Granny, in 5 years, you want to roll the dice? You want to roll the dice that the Republicans who hate working people are going to reenact Social Security? You want to roll the dice on that? Hey, how about Medicare? You want to roll the dice that Republicans are going to keep Medicare so that you maybe get to keep your health care in old age? You want to roll the dice on that? How about poor people? How about that Medicaid that's helped a good portion of the country with a little bit of health care? Evidently half of the children born in this country are born with Medicaid. The people who tell us that they're the family values party, they love the children. You want to really roll the dice with the party of family values? This gets no attention. Now remember, these are the people. These are the people who keep telling us. They're the party of family values. They're the party of smaller, less intrusive government. They're the party of lower taxes. They're the party of strong national defense. Yet a good number of them seem to be carrying the water for Vlad. Seem to be spewing the Russian propaganda. And it seems that, those core tenets they used to tell us they believed in, that we know they never did. Well, they've taken to a whole new level. But hey, keep thinking Democrats are too extreme. Wanting that health care and wanting good jobs for workers and wanting children to get health care and child care and a good education. Keep thinking that is extreme. And never mind the fact that Republican legislators across this country are going at full tilt boogie to make abortion illegal everywhere. And not just illegal, punishable with all kinds of draconian, who knows what. They're dreaming up new stuff every day. I mean, Texas has a bounty hunter law. They're literally going to set up little brown shirts, going to be sifting through women's garbage. Because, hey, there's money to be had. I can see it now. TLC will have a reality show. Dog the Bounty Hunter will be diving into dumpsters, going through women's trash. To make sure that, you better not have had a miscarriage, or, you could go on trial. Now remember, this is the party of family values. Less intrusive government. Get government out of my lives, they tell you. Except into your bedrooms. Except into your most private moments, into your most difficult decisions. You look at Texas with this transgender nonsense. Mind-blowing. Now look, I'll be the first to tell you, these are very difficult situations. Abortion, the transgender issue, I don't have the answers. And you know who else doesn't? Government. Nor should they. I'm somebody who believes government should be able to solve problems because I believe government is us, we the people coming together to solve the problems that we individually cannot solve. But I'll tell you what government should not be doing: having anything to do with a woman's reproductive rights, have anything to do with a family's choices and decisions when it comes to issues like anything having to do with transgender, anything. And I'll be the first to tell you, I know nothing about it. Nothing. It's not my issue, has never been my issue. But again, a Republican governor in Texas is the last person who should have a say in deciding how a family deals with a very difficult, very sensitive, very personal decision. And a bunch of old white guys? Most certainly. Not the people I want making those choices, especially the ones who tell me that they're, how religious they are. Save your religiosity. Save your pompous preaching. Save your nonsense. Look in the mirror, give it to yourself. You need it more than anyone. The reality is, don't worry about me. Don't worry about anyone else. Worry about yourself. Because here's the thing. Republicans are the extremists here. Republicans hate working people. Because I'll tell you one thing. One thing's always universal here. The wealthy, they're going to get what they want. If abortion is illegal and we've got Dog the Bounty Hunter sniffing down every trash can in Dallas and Houston, I guarantee you the wealthy in those cities, they're going to get what they want without the fear of any repercussion. I guarantee you, if they have a transgender child, that child is going to be able to do whatever they need and want it to be able to do, because the wealthy never have to worry about consequences like this. It's just the working class and the poor. So let's be very clear about this. The Republicans do the bidding of the wealthy, and they both hate the workers. They both hate working people. It is that simple. And what's frightening is at how fast Republicans are moving on legislation to not just outlaw abortion, but to make it criminal and to lock people up. And this one in Texas. Now again, Texas seems to be ground zero. Got the dog to bounty, the bounty hunter law. This one, predictable. Look, we're going to go into some really ugly places. I've said eventually, this isn't just about abortion. You understand, this is about the right to privacy. This is about so much more than just abortion. This is about contraception. This is about the right to choose how many children, or if you have children. This is about so much more. This is about control of one's destiny. This is about privacy from government intruding in your life. This is so much more. Self-determination. But here in Texas, State Representative Brian Slayton, male, no exceptions for rape and incest. He has put forth a piece of legislation to abolish and criminalize all abortions. And that would carry a charge of up to and including the death penalty. This isn't the first time he's put this forth. No, this has been out there before. This is not new. They've done this before. Only now there's actually a chance this could pass. Then you go, oh no, that couldn't possibly happen. That was the same thing they said about the bounty hunter thing. Now in Missouri, they've got a law that they're working on right now that would chase women across state lines. Well, okay, it's illegal in Missouri. Just go across the state line. Go get it somewhere else. Oh, no. We're going to have bounty hunters chase you across state lines. How is this not more extreme? How is this not worse? And here's the simple thing. If you're against abortion, don't have one. Pretty simple. It's the same thing about gay marriage. If you're against gay marriage, pretty simple. Don't do it. I wouldn't marry a man. If a guy came up and said, hey, would you marry me? I go, no, thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for the offer. Thanks for not hitting me in the head. Have a nice day. But it shouldn't be illegal. And people should mind their own business. But somehow all of this stuff is not extreme, according to our mainstream corporate-controlled media. No, health care for kids, good jobs for workers, increased wages. Somehow that stuff just too far. It's gone too far, Rick. It's crazy, I tell you. And I'm hoping working people wake up this election cycle, wake up to the reality that we're getting screwed, and that we get out in mass numbers and we vote. We vote early. We get out there and we make sure our voices are heard, and we get our friends and our neighbors and everybody else to the polls. This time is that important. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
I know. Don't worry, Rick. Don't worry. We're going to vote. We're going to throw the bums out. We're going to get them out. We're going to throw the bums out. Don't worry about it. We're going to go to the polls on Election Day in November, and we're going to toss them out. And the thing is, I used to believe that. I used to. But if you look at what's going on in Texas right now, if you look at how many early ballot requests are being rejected, if you look at the things that are happening in states across this country, you look at the massive number of restrictions that are put into place. You know why Trump and the Republicans are so angry about the 2020 election still? Because they really thought they had it rigged. They really thought they had done enough to rig the 2020 election, that it wouldn't matter. They thought they had done enough purging. They thought they had the Kobach Commission to do enough of their gamesmanship, to throw enough people off the voting rolls, that there's just no way enough people would go out and throw Donald Trump out. And as Billy Barr said, Trump was the weak sister in Wisconsin. Trump got 50,000 less votes than Republicans got, which means that Republicans made the choice to throw him out. So they did enough to rig it. It's just that Republican voters said, you're too bad. And the thing is they really believed they had enough to rig the thing. Now they're going to this time around. They underestimated their own people. They're going to finish it off. Which is why people have to be much, much more diligent this time around. But, I look at, think about Rick Scott's plan. We're going to eliminate all federal legislation every 5 years. Can you imagine that system and the lobbying that would go into that? There was a Washington Post story over the weekend that caught my attention. 2021 was a record-breaking year for lobbyists. $3.7 billion were spent in lobbyists. 3,700 new companies and organizations hired lobbyists in 2021. Now, look, there's a lot of money. You had the rescue plan, $1.9 trillion. You had the infrastructure bill, $1.2 trillion. There's a lot of money to lobby over. But the thing that gets me is it's not, they're not even spending a lot. Corporate America is at the trough with their nose all the way deep in. The Chamber of Commerce spent over $66 million. National Association of Realtors, they wanted theirs. They've got $44 million. Big Pharma, $30 million. The Business Roundtable, $29 million. Blue Cross Blue Shield, $25 million. American Hospital Association, $25 million. Meta, $20 million. American Medical Association, $19 million. Amazon, $19 million. American Chemical Council, $16 million. Go down the list. All of these corporate interests, all of these corporate associations, just spending money lobbying for what? Well, because they want more for them. You know who doesn't have a lobbyist? You, me, working people. Which is why legislation never goes our way. And you look at the fact that Rick Scott, without any worry, without any concern, is willing to raise taxes on 50% of the country. Without concern. But he's willing to cut taxes. He's going to cut taxes because he's going to cut taxes. You know on who? The 1%. Because that's who matters. That's who's footing the bill. That's who pays the bill. And at the end of the day, until we wake up to the reality that this isn't as much as right against left as we're led to believe, it's really those folks at the top, the people sitting in the corporate boardrooms against the rest of us. The ones who can say, hey, I can pay half the working class to murder the other half. The sooner we wake up to that reality, the sooner we're going to maybe have a shot at getting some things that we need to get done. Because I go back to it. Think about the framing that they've thrown at us. Think about it for a second. Health care for kids, child care, some help for seniors to stay in their homes a little bit longer before you have to put them in a nursing home, affordable housing, public transit. That's extreme. But all of the attacks on abortion, all of the attacks on families with transgender kids, all of the insanity over that theory about race that's critical. Oh my God, the sky is falling. In fact, Trump over the weekend said, you gotta, what was it? You gotta you put your life on the line or whatever nonsense he was throwing out there. That this is the issue to die on? Really? While people are literally dying in Ukraine for freedom, the theory about race that's critical is the issue that Republicans are literally going to die on? And the answer is yes, because it is that important to them. Because they are that simplistic. That's the message machinery. Because they know that gets people, that's the outrage candy. That's the chaos merchants throwing stuff out there to keep us divided so that they can keep robbing us blind. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the grift. It's all about stealing from us. Because again, rule number one, Republicans hate working people. That never will change. And it comes out in their legislation. And look, I don't like saying that. I wish there were a movement of Republicans that say, no, we're going to stand up and fight for working people. We're going to fight for better health care. But you got Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, who came out and said, we're going to repeal the Affordable Care Act with nothing in its replacement. At least Trump laughingly said he had a replacement plan. And we know what his replacement plan was. It was a ream of unopened paper from Staples, all blank pages. We know there was nothing there, but at least he I've got something. At least he spent the 59 cents and bought the packet of paper. Even if he did send John Barron to get it. But we're in one of these moments. And the sooner that we come together and put down this division, the more hope maybe we've got. And this is where I'm frustrated in this moment, because we're focused on what's being thrown at us, what's being spoon-fed by right-wing outrage chaos merchants, by our corporate-controlled mainstream media, by social media constantly. It's all about what divides us. It's not about what makes our lives better. What the president's talking about, and again, I go back to his State of the Union address, it's what makes our lives better. How are we going to make family life better? How are we going to help people how are we going to help them get ahead? That's the question. How are we going to rebuild the American dream? That's the question. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you're just joining us, make sure you grab the podcast. Take the program on the go wherever you go, wherever you get your podcast, from iTunes to iHeart, Stitcher to Podbean, and everywhere in between. Make sure you grab it.
Calling all builders, all welders and roofers, engineers and electricians. Calling all brick masons and boiler makers, steel workers and steam fitters. Your country is calling you to rebuild America, to create a cleaner, safer, more prosperous future for all. Tackling climate change, this is the job of our lifetime. It's time to build back better. Let's get to work.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So we live in a world right now where every time you turn around, someone's tracking your movements, someone's following you with a camera. Every time, playing games with the kids, they're even recording our every movement. We're almost programmed to where every second of our day is being either filmed or documented in one way or another. And the question becomes, what happened to privacy? What happened to, those intimate moments? And what happened to our information, our data, our papers, our privacy in our papers? What happened to our rights? And what happens when corporate America gets a hold of it What happens when our government gets a hold of it? That is the question. And here to share some thoughts on all of those questions and maybe how we deal with it and how we take some control over it. I've asked Thom Hartmann to come talk with us. Thom is a talk radio host, the king of progressive media, also the host, also the author of the latest book, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threatens Us and Our Democracy. Thom, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, it's great being back with you. Thank you for inviting me.
So, we live in this time. I mean, like my kids, they don't know anything other than being, surveilled, watched by cameras, recorded, constantly under, the laptops they get from school or watching them or recording them. They don't know any better. You and I, we expect privacy. Sadly, they don't.
Yeah, it's amazing the changes that have happened just in the last 20 years or 25 years, I guess, at the most. There's this doctrine that goes back to the 11th century England, the castle doctrine. A man's home is his castle, but there's a certain responsibility associated with that. If you, Rick, put a sign out in front of your house tonight saying, big party at midnight, come on in, doors open, and just let any old skeezy person come in and do whatever they wanted, and you ended up with somebody in the back room shooting up heroin and somebody in the other room raping somebody and somebody in the kitchen showing, child pornography or something. If the cops busted in, they wouldn't just arrest all those bad guys. They'd arrest you because you let it happen in your house.
Right.
It's the flip side. It's your castle, but you're also responsible for it. That has been the law of the United States, the English-speaking world, literally since the 1100s. And in 1996, in their brilliant wisdom, Congress passed a law called the Telecommunications Act of 1996, Section 230, that says that's true. If a business invites people in and they're committing crimes and the business knows about it, they can go to jail. If you invite people into your home and they commit crimes and you know about it, you can go to jail. But if you build a house on the internet and people come in there and they're buying and selling people and they're selling weapons and they're organizing terrorist attacks, you have no responsibility whatsoever. And that was, the beginning of Mark Zuckerberg becoming one of the richest men on earth.
And one of the most powerful
our kids
people.
Don't remember a time before that when the internet was safe. I used to run forums on CompuServe from 1981 to 1996. They paid us to do that to make sure that kind of stuff didn't happen. But boy, when this got decriminalized, it was off to the races.
So now that the genie's out of the bottle, is there a way to shove it back in?
Yeah, we could fix Section 230. And by the way, this isn't just some old liberal saying this. The other guy who wrote a book about this, which is actually a pretty good book, although the last half of it is about how liberals want to destroy the world, is Josh Hawley, the guy the senator from Missouri who wants to be president. There is a bipartisan concern about just reasonable limits. The other thing is, when Donald Trump became president, he put Ajit Pai, a guy who is a lawyer for Verizon, in charge of the FCC. Now, again, since the 1920s, if the police or the guy down the street or your phone company want to listen to your phone conversation, they have to have a warrant signed by the judge per the Fourth Amendment. And that was true of the internet up until about 3 years ago. And then Ajit Pai came, and nobody could read what you were doing. Your internet service provider couldn't read what you were doing. It was covered by what's called Title II of the Telecommunications Act. Ajit Pai blew that up. So now your internet service provider brings the service into your home and your children's home, brings your children's service in, can literally watch everything you are doing, every single keystroke, every page you visit, whether you slow down for a particular picture or you linger on a particular ad. They can read all your email inbound, all your email outbound, everything you do, and they can record it and they can sell it. And, again, this is something that literally no other fully democratic country in the world will tolerate. And for some reason here in America, we're just taking it.
No, and not just taking it, we're selling it. I mean, this is for profit is what it is.
Making a lot of money on it.
They're making a ton of money on it. And it's, and again, we were arguing about this before Pi did it back then. And, I was fighting against it then because, then it was about the children, because clearly did not want my kids being targeted as they are right now, because these social media apps are doing just that. First, it's the kids, and now you've got them used to being targeted and their information being out there. This is a huge problem.
It really is. It really is, and it's the result of big tech throwing around big money in Washington D.C. because 5 conservatives on the Supreme Court said that they didn't think that they didn't think political bribery was a thing anymore. It's now called free speech. And no matter how much money billionaires throw into the pockets of politicians or big corporations for that matter, because they also said, hey, corporations are people, my friend, now it's possible to buy politicians, and thus you get these outrages like Section 230 and the end of net neutrality.
And now what you end up having also is, the fact that you've brainwashed an entire generation by feeding them the outrage candy that they've so desperately wanted from 2016 forward. Every time, I have friends who, they're addicted to Facebook, they're addicted to Instagram, and they're constantly fed, their specific slice of insanity, whatever that is. And their biases are confirmed at every moment of every day by the most vile, outrageous stuff possible. And you wonder why we're in the position we are politically.
Yeah, in the book, I draw an analogy to that. I was in South America a couple of decades ago, hanging out with some shamans down in Peru, and they gave me some coca leaf to chew on. And it was like a weak cup of coffee. It was just a really mild buzz. In the Middle East, I've smoked opium. Same deal. It's not as strong as your weakest prescription painkiller. But if you take opium or if you take cocaine and you distill it down to its finest essence, you got crack and you got heroin, and it will destroy your friggin' life. That's what these algorithms do. They are taking our human interactions, our anger, our fears, our hopes, our loves, all of our emotions, and distilling them down into the purest essence they possibly can and mainlining it right through our eyeballs into our nervous system. And like you said, Rick, it's addictive, just like all those drugs would be. And it's frankly insane that we allow this to happen, and we allow these companies to maintain these algorithms as trade secrets.
And the thing is the most vile part of it is it's all for profit. It all comes back to keeping your eyeballs on that screen, getting addicted to that notification that you run to the screen so that they can make profit off of you going back over and over and over again. They don't care about democracy. They don't care about family values. They don't care about anything other than the bottom line, which is cash in their pockets.
That's right, and how much of it they can keep, recycle to politicians on their side. But I think people are waking up. Europe has woken up. They passed a internet privacy law. Not only can your internet service providers not snoop on you in Europe, they would go to jail, and the police. But also, and not only have they done, thus bringing back net neutrality, and not only have they largely blown up Section 230 or their equivalent of it, but they've also come up with this thing called the right to be forgotten. If you can now, if you're a European citizen, you can send a note to any of the search engine companies and say, this particular link that comes up when my name gets searched, I don't want that link to be in your search results anymore. And they have to take it out. And that came out of a lawsuit back about 10 years ago from a Spanish guy who had a very, very low internet profile and discovered when he Googled himself that the only thing on the internet about him was a 1998 bankruptcy that he'd had. And it was like he didn't realize that employers and landlords, he couldn't figure out why he was being treated so badly. They were Googling him and figuring he was a deadbeat. So he sued. Google laughed at him. The EU got behind him, and now they got a law.
Yeah, see, now I think that's something Rick Santorum could probably get behind. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Tom Hartman. Tom's a progressive radio host, the king of progressive media, also the author of the book, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threatens Us and Our Democracy. So how do we fight back? I mean, most of us think, hey, you can't fight City Hall. These big corporations, these huge tech companies have so much money, so much power and influence. They're spending, millions of dollars on lobbyists. What does a little guy like me, what's a little guy like our listeners do?
Well, at the largest and most structural level, we all need to be lobbying aggressively and working with politicians who support breaking up monopolies. It's not only insane; it's against the law. A law that was signed in 1891 It's against the law for one company to own 90% of an industry, like Google does with search engines, for example, or Facebook with social media. So number one, which is not 90%, but it's huge. So number one, break up the monopolies. Number two, undo Donald Trump's destruction of net neutrality and bring the internet back under Title II of the Telecommunications Act. So if somebody wants to spy on you, they have to get a warrant. Number three, undo or rewrite Section 230 of the Telecom Act of 96 so that social media companies are actually have some responsibility. It need not be draconian, but they have some responsibility for what goes on in the houses that they've built on the internet. And number four, we need to, and this is one of the main things I try to do with the book, is inform people about all the ways that you're being spied on. I mean, from your smart car to your thermostat to your refrigerator. I mean, smart beds now, they're sending the information back to the mothership about when you go to bed, when you wake up, how well you sleep, so that they can sell that information to somebody who might want to sell you a sleep remedy or a CPAP machine or something. I mean, there's the thermostat companies have the ability to sell information to, oh, look at this, somebody's varying their temperature a lot. Must be some woman going through menopause or somebody having cancer therapy. And the doorbell companies now, you can't get a smart doorbell without being tied into somebody's server. So they know everybody who comes into your house, when you leave, when you're gone, whether you had a party or not, everything. And I mean, and now they're hooking them up with police departments around the country. So it's like, it's time to wake the hell up.
Yeah, no, I have friends who have the Alexa and the, all those things, the little assistants, which I refuse to get. I'm sure it's on my phone and I'm sure it's still, possibly gotten, but, they say, hey, I've been talking about this, and all of a sudden, all of my ads start popping up as this. It's almost that you can't get away from it. I mean, right. It's creeped into our lives in such a way, Tom, that you almost can't get away from it.
These guys are really good at what they do, and they've had 20 years or more to fine tune their skill, and with no oversight, no controls, no regulations. What's really nuts, Rick, is if somebody said the NFL should just scrap the rule book. A team wants to have 12 men on the field, no problem. As long as they grease the skids of the commissioners. People are like, no, there need to be rules. You can't have a game without rules. Well, the economy is that way. The politics is that way. The internet is that way. We need some friggin' rules.
There you go. Good stuff, Tom. I appreciate the time. I hope folks will check out the book, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America. We'll get links out on social media how you can check it out. Written by Tom Hartman. Good stuff, Tom. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Rick. It's always great talking to you.
Good stuff. I appreciate the time. Love to hear your thoughts. You can give us a call, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Make sure you check out the website, thericksmithshow.com. If you're just joining us, make sure you grab the podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you grab it from there. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this with your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. This is The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Enough to talk.
The good news is America is coming back. More jobs, more building, more of what makes our country great. And more cities and towns, more small businesses and big corporations are choosing the highly skilled, highly trained members of the IBEW to do the work. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is committed to doing the job right, on time, and safely. America is making a big comeback, and the IBEW is proud to do our part.
So, according to talking points sent to Russian media, evidently the Kremlin wants Fox News' Tucker Carlson everywhere. They want Tucker. That's right, because evidently, quote, he sharply criticizes the actions of the United States and NATO, their negative role in unleashing the conflict in Ukraine, and the defiantly provocative behavior from the leaders of the Western countries and NATO toward the Russian Federation and towards President Putin personally. So this is coming from them, man. They want their Tucker. They want Tucker. Yes. So they want some Tucker. And why not? Because hey, he's carrying their water for them. You just gotta go there. Speaking of carrying some water, Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, she evidently told the Washington Free Beacon that she's all in favor of, she was all at the Stop the Steal rally, but got cold and left early. Now understand, she was all in favor of it. She did a whole bunch of planning for it. She's been on the far extreme right for ages. She's been doing crazy stuff for a while, on the payroll of a bunch of, extreme groups. And I've been saying for years, I don't know how she can get away with this and end up having him on the Supreme Court. But, nobody pays attention. Let's go to the phone lines. Got Alice on line one. Alice, how are we today?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. How about yourself?
I am fabulous. What's on your mind?
Okay. You were talking at the beginning of the show about the radical right wing. I have been screaming about these people for years. And I've been told that, because I'm not a Christian, that I'm overreacting. And I kind of feel vindicated.
No, these people are
because
lunatics.
They are. I mean, it is just, I do not understand how or why they're getting away with the stuff that they're getting away with, because if it was anyone else, we'd all been hauled off somewhere, Guantanamo Bay or something, for being terrorists. But it's outrageous, just like that Jenny Thomas. How is she getting away with this? I can guarantee you, if this would have been one of the liberal judges' spouse, there would have been screaming coming from the entire Republican Congress.
And the thing is the amazing part of this is the right gets away with this kind of stuff because the left just goes, well, that's just who they are. We expect horrible from them, and allow it to go away, and have been allowing it for far too long. And this is the moment of frustration that we're in. I look at the abortion issue. For the longest time, Republicans are going to do this. You expect it from them. The reality is now they're the dog catching the car, and not only have they caught the car, now they're biting the tires off. Now they're biting the fender off the car. They're literally chewing the car to pieces. They know what to do with it. They're criminalizing women having the ability to determine their future. They are going to put women back 50 to 100 years.
Oh, I know. I was 13 years old when Roe was passed. And even at 13 years of age, I would get into it with my mother, who was a diehard Baptist. But I'll tell you what, people better wake up, or we're going to find ourselves back in the Middle Ages, and it's not going to be a fun time.
No, because it's not just about Roe. It's about Griswold as well. It's about contraception. It's about eventually it's about working. It's about as I've been saying for years. It's about putting women barefoot and pregnant back in the kitchen, gays back in the closet, and blacks back in the field. Which the original intent. They have told us for years they believe in the original intent of the Constitution.
Oh, I totally agree with you, and I've said the same thing. That was the entire game plan. Original intent, well, we had slavery originally. Tisk, 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 got to put it back in there. And I'm telling you what, we're going to have slaves, women will have no rights, and we're probably going to have poorhouses instead of unions, and they're going to send everybody there, and the companies will just buy the poorhouse.
Amen.
And that way they don't have to pay wages.
I'm with you.
But you have a good evening, Rick.
Appreciate the thoughts, Alice. Thanks so much. And this is the scary part: the world that we're heading towards. And I hate to be this negative, but the world that we're heading, the Republican worldview, is if you don't pull yourself up by your bootstraps, even if you don't have bootstraps, then it's shame on you. You're on your own, brother. You think about the Dickinsonian world. If there's not a profit to be made, you will starve. If there's not a profit to be made, you will starve. You stop and think about all the inflation talk that's going on right now. All the people going, oh my gosh, inflation's going through the roof. You know why inflation's going through the roof? Opportunism. Good old-fashioned American greed. We've got supply chain issues. Yeah, we've got supply chain issues. We've got cost issues. Yeah. But CEOs, they're lining their pockets, man. They're using the pandemic for every bit that it's worth. Because across the board, you look at industry after industry, costs are going up. But you know what else are going up? Profit margins. And you go, how is it possible? Look, I understand. If your costs are going up, I get it. Costs are going up. You got to raise your prices. I get it. But when your profit margins are going up, that just tells me you're just being greedy. You're taking advantage of the moment. And this is where, I had a listener on our weekend show call in and say, you know what should happen? We should just stop buying stuff. Just don't buy it anymore. Find other ways of dealing. For the short term, say, nope, not doing it. Cost too much. When the prices come down, then we'll talk. Start holding these CEOs accountable. Start forcing their hands. Because for far too long, they've been able to pull this game. And we just grin and bear it. We just end up taking it, and it's the people who can afford it the least who get hammered the most. The working poor. The working class of this country gets screwed all of the time. Because the wealthy know, what choice do they have? They got to show up to those crummy jobs, so we're going to hit them with high oil prices. And I said from the beginning, what Biden should have done, said, yep, we're going to ban Russian oil. And in this moment, we're going to eliminate all gas taxes, and to offset the cost of the gas taxes, we're going to raise an emergency tax on all oil profits. That's what we should be doing, because we should be helping the working poor to get to work every day. You help the people at the bottom. That's why I love what Biden said in the State of the Union address, but he's got to follow through it on policy. It's bottom up, middle out, not top down. Just my thoughts. Love to hear yours. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you're just joining us, just tuning in, make sure you grab the podcast so you never miss a minute of the program. You can grab that at thericksmithshow.com or wherever you get your podcasts, from iTunes to iHeart, from Podbean to Stitcher, everywhere in between. Always there. Weekly, we do a special interview. I'll make sure you check that out. Quick break. Right back.
I took 2 years of electric in high school, and I was the only girl in the class there. Here, I'm the only girl as far as installers go. I'm a single mom, too. I joined the union because it gave me options for health care and life insurance so that I know my son's taken care of. I like what I do. This is the best job I've ever had. You think solar panels is more like California. You wouldn't think Appalachia would have any. It would be smart if the government would invest more in clean energy resources.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. So there was an interesting story today. A Russian television employee went on the Russian-owned television station, Channel 1, and broke into the nightly news broadcast to protest the invasion into Ukraine, chanting, "Stop the war, no to war." She signed the whole 9 yards. When I saw this, when I saw the video, my first thought was, what's going to happen to this woman? Is she going to disappear? what's going to happen to, is she going to end up being, gone? The woman recorded a video before her protest. She said, "I am now deeply ashamed. We silently watched this anti-human regime. We are Russian people, thinking the smart ones. Only we have the power to stop all this craziness." Now, I am wondering what is going to happen to her. I am wondering if she is going to, have to do one of those hostage video moments where they're going to, make her do a some kind of weird, I'm sorry, some kind of weird, I didn't mean to, some kind of weird thing. I wish the best for her. Let's go to the phone lines. Got Kurt on line 1. Kurt, how are we doing today, buddy?
Pretty good. I got something good for you. I
Hit
got
me.
something really good for you, and I think you're going to sleep good tonight knowing this. I wasn't going to say nothing out loud, but I want to say it. So tonight, the group, Starfish Environmental Group, who does phone banking, we're phone banking in Utah for Evan McMullen in the Senate race against Mike Lee. And we typically don't phone bank for Republicans, but we're trying to help Evan McMullen to beat out Mike Lee, who is one of the 147 seditious, and he also voted to not send the funding to Ukraine. So we are doing everything we can. So when this came about the other day, I had your show was on, and we were on a Zoom, and you were talking about how the Democrats don't fight hard enough. And one of the girls in the group the next morning called, and she said, "Kurt, we need to go fight like Democrats." And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I hope we're not going to get out the guns. And she said, we need to start this is a good race to call against Mike Lee, who doesn't do good things. And, Evan McMullen, I think, would do a real good job in the Senate seat because there is no Democrat in that seat.
Right.
So.
No, I mean, this is one of those things. Look,
Look,
I keep saying, Republicans, take your party back somewhere to the sane line. At this point, give me a decent Republican to bring the party back to somewhere where it was, when it was, when my friend Bob Ney was in there. Look, I go back. I almost pine for the days of Newt Gingrich and the contract on America. At this point, because at least they weren't siding with Russian propaganda. At least they weren't doing the things that we're seeing right now. As extreme as I thought they were then, at least they weren't doing the kind of things that we see today. Heaven forbid. I mean, it's just bring me some reasonable Republicans back.
Absolutely. So
Good
I
stuff,
thought you
Kurt.
might like that. So
Good stuff.
I wanted
Keep
to
up the
share it
great
with you.
work. You do awesome stuff.
Yes, I'm going to be I'm going to be phoning next week in Western Pennsylvania for Summer Lee. She'd be a really good candidate in the House. So I'm looking forward to that. So
Outstanding, Kurt. Good stuff, man. Appreciate the call.
all right.
As always, good stuff. Look, and this is one of those things. You have the ability to, Kurt's in Arizona. He makes calls into districts all across the country because this is what we need to be doing. This is what working people need to do. You got time, get on your phone, make a couple of phone calls, talk to people, talk to your friends, talk to neighbors. Preach, get out there and preach the good word. Talk about the issues that are important. Because again, as I started today off with, mainstream corporate controlled media is trying to convince us that health care for kids, that child care, that, ending childhood poverty, that helping, affordable housing, that equality, that doing something with income inequality, that moving forward to help working families, somehow that stuff is extreme. Somehow that's too far left, that's too woke. But all of the stuff that we're seeing Republicans doing in state houses across this country, directly involved in people's most intimate decisions on whether they can or should have children, what they do with their children, somehow that's a-okay. Somehow that's well, not a problem. It's somehow religious. Very, very strange times. But we got a lot to get to. We got a lot to do. A lot to do, folks. If you missed any of today's program, thericksmithshow.com. That's where you go to get the podcast. The Rick Smith Show app on the smartphone. Take the program on the go wherever you're going. As always, you can email me, Rick, at thericksmithshow.com. Make sure you follow us on social media at Rick Smith Show on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all of that. Like, subscribe, share. Thanks so much for tuning in.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.